Hey folks, it's Bob here at Sorrento Hill. Thanks for stopping by. Thought I'd share with you what I'm doing on this beautiful day. We've had dancing around rain showers for 2 days and now it's absolutely beautiful today. I went down to a place called Mountain Milling Company in Mountain Home, Arkansas, and I wanted to build some raised beds, and I'm trying to do it on the cheap. Well, they have what they call first cut bundles, and it's the first cut that they cut off in order to square a log up to make their boards out of it. And what, you got pieces like this. See the thickness on that? And now the sides are not straight, but I'll show you what I do on that. But this whole, what you see on the trailer here, that's probably about 2/3 of one load, one bundle. They're $10 a bundle. I got two, but the first one filled my truck up, so my trailer up, so I just took credit on it. I'll go get it later when I go get some other stuff. But this is what I'm using to make my beds with. And for 10 bucks for a whole trailer load, if you don't mind the rustic look of the bark on the outside, I think that'll be pretty nice. And it's red cedar. I'm going to line the inside of it with some landscape fabric to keep dirt from leaking out, and I'll show you what I do to square the edges. Let me take you over there and show you what I've got so far, and then we're going to get busy on making some more of it, finishing out this one bed, and then I've got at least one more that I'm going to make, possibly two. All right, this is what we've got up so far. It's 4 foot wide across the end, and I cut these stakes a little longer than I needed to. On the next one, I won't cut them as long, and set these up 4 foot wide, and it's 24 feet long. And then what I'm doing is like I'm going down here 8 foot, and these are 18 inches tall. And you see how the boards rest on each other? That's because I take my saw and I cut a flat edge, straight edge, so that they stack up nice. And then what I'm doing here is I come up 8 foot, and then I've got a 4 foot that comes out. This will come up over 4 feet, and then it'll go in, and then I'll do some 8 foot boards across, and then here I'll have another 4x4 come out. So, and then after we get these logs out of the way, which my grandson is staying with me. He didn't want to be on camera, but he's going to help me out with this. And then I'll build another one over here, leave that crabapple tree in the middle, and that way you'll have to kind of walk around the bump outs. All right, so I got lucky. This board's already got one flat edge on it, but this one is not. So I've got it marked off with a line here, and I will cut it to give me a straight edge. Oh, hand me
that
saw.
one needs a bit of a handsaw.
Yeah, now we need the handsaw. It's thick enough that the regular saw won't cut through it. Oh, now I gotta trim this too. Some of it's so thick that the regular saw won't go through it. these will end up getting used as stakes somewhere. Okay.
That was less hand saw than I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be more hand sawing too. And see, this one's about 6 inches. And now the fun's going to be attaching these. I may attach these from the inside. That one right there. And this piece here is the same length. I just got to cut a straight edge on it. I mean, this is right at the length that I need it to be. Inches, so I need a total of 8 inches more boards. Well, now we see the finished product. Well, mostly finished. All the sides and the ends on it. The part that I was cutting wood for earlier, I neglected to get footage of how I put the sides in, but basically, this is the bump outs I was talking about, 4 foot by 4 foot. I'm glad I saw my level before I started filling. And what I did on these, you can see the way they're constructed. I've got basically a stake on either side, and then the boards are just screwed to the stake. Once I got that assembly, I just brought it over here, pounded the stakes down in, and my initial stakes that I used for building the thing, for framing it out, were a bit long, so I cut the tops off. But don't worry, in the spirit of waste not, want not, I'll be using those pieces that I cut off to make some braces for the corners here where these bump outs come in. But you know, the funny thing is, yeah, it's not perfect. Everything's not all the same height. It's roughly 18 inches. The ground's not perfectly level, so they're not perfectly straight, but 18-inch tall raised beds. I got more money in the screws than I do in the wood. This is probably I would say, about out of that $10 of wood that I bought, this is probably about $6 of it. So pretty good bang for the buck. A 5-pound box of 2.5 inch coated screws for exterior use was, I think, $38 or $39. So I've got 4-5 times as much, 6 times as much in the cost of screws than I do in the cost of wood. Now what I'll do here, now that I've got the stakes trimmed off, is I'll make sure everything's good and secure. I'll get my corners, these where the corners meet, I'll get those braced with some of the scrap wood and some 4-inch screws. And then the next step will be to, once the rain moves through, we got rain is supposed to start anytime now, but once the rain moves through, I'll bring my air compressor out here. I've got some landscape fabric, some weed fabric that I'm going to put in up to about the top of the wood here, and I'll let it drape down into the bed, curve down into the bed. That way it'll keep weeds from the outside trying to grow in, and it'll also keep my dirt from washing out. And what I'm going to use to fill it, of course I got this I've got to chip up, And back over here, I've got a compost pile. I'll be using that. But the first layer, again, in the spirit of waste not, want not, the first layer is going to be, I got 2 piles of these logs that I was going to use in the house, and ended up they weren't the right size to be able to use. Didn't work out. So they've been laying on the ground for a while here, and they're pretty much rotten or close to rotten. So I'm going to be cutting these up into manageable pieces, and those will form the bottom layer. And then I'll chip these all these twigs and branches up, put that in. I'll put a layer of that compost in, and then I'll go in with some raised bed garden soil to finish up the top layer of it, and that'll be about 8 to 10 inches thick. And that should be plenty sufficient for just about anything, because I'm not growing carrots, so I don't need stuff with deep roots. And as that wood decays, it'll release carbon and nitrogen in, and it'll also absorb water and kind of hold on to water. So that'll help my bed stay wet longer instead of drying out so fast. And as that decays, well, I will continually be composting leaves and weed clippings and grass clippings and leftover food, if there happens to be any garden scraps, things like that. I'll be constantly composting that, and I'll put that on next year to top dress it, and that'll be some good organic composted mulch to put on top of there, so that'll help. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how that turned out. I'll get the garden fabric in that and start filling it up, and then it will be start construction on the next one, and it's going to go right in this space here. So I've got to get those logs moved out. And again, in the spirit of waste not, want not, those logs, the reason they're the length they are, those are going to end up being the post on the frame for my barbecue pavilion that I'm going to be building a little later. So I'll have my grandson help me get those out. He doesn't know he's going to be helping lift logs like that yet. I thought I'd save that as a surprise. And that other bed will go just right in here, and it'll have the bump outs also, of course, so that yeah, just kind of a maze walk through, and I thought it would make it look a little nicer than just plain old straight beds. All right, don't be afraid to think out of the box. Get out there and do something you've never done before. I'll have these ready for when my seedlings get big enough, and that's going to be right around middle of May, which is when my grandfather always said that's when you should put your stuff in the garden. So I'll be right on schedule for that. And well, then we'll see, how does my garden grow? All right, thanks for stopping by. Again, this is Bob at Serenity Hill. Don't be afraid to get out there and do something you've never done before. You'll learn something new, and you might just like it. And don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't think, man, I need raised garden beds and I got to spend a fortune for them. That's about $6 worth of wood. Now, you may not be able to find something as inexpensive, as cost effective as that, but hey, you can scrounge around and find something, and you don't have to break the bank in order to make something and in order to feed yourself. All right, thanks for stopping by. Like and subscribe, and we hope you're enjoying this, and we will see you on the next one. Bye now.